Good morning, Breakfast Club family. This is Mark Stevens, your host, Joe Shoup, and Shirley. Hope you had a great holiday.
Morning, Joe.
Morning. I got a great program for you today, so I'm turning right over to Joe so we can get started. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing fantastic and amazing, heading towards phenomenal. Thank you for asking. What about you?
I am headed to phenomenal and to the stratosphere. Going to be a great 2017.
All right. Yeah. And good morning, Shirley. And Roland, good morning. Your mic is off. You're muted, Roland, on my end anyway. So, but good morning. If you can unmute that, it'd be great. So, look, welcome, everyone. It is 2017, obviously. And we're going to spend just a few minutes here today because we're going to get ready for a big day next week. So I need to grab something. Mark, I'm going to send it back to you just for a second. I need to grab something here because I'm going to show a little video this morning as we close in the next 15 minutes. I'm going to show you probably a 40-second video. Hopefully it'll have some impact. But we need to talk about communication. We talk about it all the time, but it's really important that we really understand what that means. And I know I see a few people on here outside of our group, and I know that we're not supposed to say that about Cooler Brands because we all are in the same group. And the reason for that at Cooler Brands is that regardless of who does the work, we all benefit in some way. And we won't explain that too much for new people today, but that's the way it is. That's what makes this company, Cooler Brands, different than everybody else and any company that's ever come along. We are excited because we're going to talk a little bit about this special guest. So I want to grab something here, Mark. I'll be right back and put you on there for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Let me see. I'm echoing here for some reason. Let's see. Okay. This is a great start to the new year, and communication, again, is very important because it goes right along with marketing. We know marketing is what you do to get your information in front of people, but in order to do that, you have to know how to communicate. And it's very important that we do that because it's what's going to help our business grow. If you can't communicate, then you can't, whether you have a brick or mortar, online, offline, it's not going to work unless you know how to communicate properly. Because, again, I'll say it again, and Joe has said many times, he teaches it, terminology and perception, it has to make sense. The way it makes sense is how you communicate it, because that's how you're going to give somebody's perception of you and your business. So with that, Joe, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to read something here. That's why I'm looking down the way I am here, and I need to read this. I wrote this based on the information, but the person that we will be bringing on next Tuesday, we're going to be working on some things all week, and he was involved in computers, Mark, before IBM. At that point, there were no PCs, just the mainframe. You know, you've seen that on TV where we just had that mainframe, and it really wasn't personal yet. And this person was involved in that. When Apple came out with Macintosh, he was the top salesperson in the country. Now, this is a guy that's, he wears many hats, but he was the top salesman in the country for Macintosh. He won one of the first cell phones for your car that were ever produced. It's funny when I talked to him about it. It's something he had to rewire his car in order to get the phone into the car and use it. And the only people using phones at that time were limousine drivers, where they were communicating. They had those things, and he said it cost him, hundreds of dollars a month to keep the phone. It was more than his car payment, which happened to be a Honda Civic. So he's kind of spending more money for that phone than his car. Then he took computer programming classes and managed a local computer store in San Diego. Then he was negotiating government contracts in Washington, D.C., representing Intel, American Savings, and so on. He was self-employed for over 18 years. and established an insurance company and sold that insurance company, Mark, for 7 figures. 7 figures at a very early age. Now we're talking about the company co-founder of your company, Kula Brands, happens to be Doug Kyle. Now Doug's a little bit under the weather. So we're preparing for next week, but I wanted most people don't know this about Doug. They don't realize this is the guy behind the scenes creating all of the programming for us, right? This is a guy who stays up till 3 a.m. in the morning while most of us are sleeping. And you don't hear from him much. Yeah, you hear him on the calls and so on, but he doesn't talk about the things he's skilled in with communication. And so we've been over this several times, and we scheduled a special Breakfast Club appearance with Doug for next Tuesday. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have him on. We're going to discuss why it's important for the 2 things that he does. One is he's back there programming and writing everything there is for Kula Brands for us to be successful. He's out there designing, the programs. He's designing the funnels. So it's important, in my opinion, that people understand what this communication, how he became the top salesman in the United States. What was he doing? I mean, we're talking years and years ago. What was he doing? How was he communicating with his clients, his customers, his prospects in order to do that? So I talked to him last night. And he doesn't sound good, to be honest with you. He sounds really under the weather, and his family a little bit. So they're recuperating. I know he's in today and he'll be working, but I told him, no, let's just reschedule this because you need to get your health in order here. We can do this next week. We'll promote it all week and bring people to the table for you to intimately meet Doug. And some of us for the first time. Some people will be doing that, meeting him as far as an interview, so to speak, or instructions he'll be giving you. So we talked about this last night, Mark, about what communication is, and you just said it. The terminology you use creates a perception. That perception had better make sense. But the problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. That simply means that you have to understand and make sure you understand what the message is when someone is talking to you. And certainly you've got to make sure that you're listening and they're listening, and you use a technique that establishes that both of you heard the same thing and you agree that what you heard is what was trying to be explained. Now, it might sound minor right now, but you get into a conversation with a prospect, you better understand those rules. I don't care what kind of program you have, what kind of tools and motivation you get. If you get on the phone and you start dialogue with a person and you're not prepared, you don't know the steps to communication, you don't know the steps to the phone call, you are going to be in trouble. If you don't know how to answer questions effectively, and I don't mean when someone says, how does your comp plan work? You sit there and talk about royalties. That is not the way to explain this company, because we have tools to do that. Now, we have, Roland, is your microphone clear now? Can we get you on audio? I'm not sure that we have Roland on here. Roland is on our team. He's actually, I said before, he won that contest. Came in, one of the top people in the contest. And that was without taking the communication class, Mark. He didn't even take the class at that point, but he was putting people in left and right. I know he put maybe 13, 14 people in just that 1 month. And just recently, which is why I wanted him on, he went and took this communication class and called me and said, oh my gosh, all my people should be taking this class. I said, I have news for you. They all have. You introduced me and talked to them about taking the class, and most of them did. And most of them had the same feeling. Now, I know most people sit and say, well, you talk about that communication class, and you guys talk about that a lot, but you don't fully understand that this is not the same communication class you've heard over the years from anyone else. This is and Mark, I'll let you explain a little bit more about this class and why it's important to get to this class and understand what your role is here, no matter what company you're explaining.
Yeah, well, Joe,
Yep.
One thing that's very important that everybody should understand is that just because you're talking, it doesn't mean that they're listening. And so the class, the reason that it's so important, because it's life-changing. In other words, it can take even a professional's business to another level. Because, again, when you communicate, again, if you get the wrong perception, if you don't know how to ask questions and answer questions, in other words, if you don't know how to end a question with a question so that you maintain the conducting of that interview per se, if you want to influence somebody, you have to know how to professionally do that. And if you don't, again, if you don't know how to end an answer with a question so you can maintain control of the conversation, you'll lose the people, or they'll be interviewing you and influencing you, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. So unless you know how to do that, unless you know how to answer every question that a person has for you, then you're not going to make it. It doesn't matter how good your product is, how good your program is. Again, what you're trying to do is create more locations, create more affiliates, or whatever you're doing. In order to do that, you have to have the proper communication. It's that simple, Joe.
Yep. I want to ask this question. We're getting to this 15-minute mark. I want to ask this question before we go, because I'm going to play this little 40-second video, 40 seconds. But I want to ask this, and let's see. There's Dawn making some comments. I'm really excited about working with another group of people that have experienced the class. We're very excited. We're starting this week with a new group of people with role-playing practice sessions and so on. And I know they're excited to get rolling with this. So I want to ask this question, and we'll close with this. I had a conversation with a brand new person. I don't know if he's on the call, he and his wife, and I hope they don't mind me using this as an example, but I won't give you their names. But they did take the class. Right after registering, I told them it was important. They fell into that 97% bracket, not being successful, only in a couple companies. This is a very, very educated couple in their field, very educated, completely successful, and now retired. However, when we talked about the director and doing the three-way call, I asked them the same question, and I'll ask it now. Why? What is the purpose of having a three-way call, which we call a director call? What is the purpose of that? And I'm going to read something to you that we have in writing, but I want to ask that, and let's see if people can put that in there. Now, I asked them after taking the class, and they both came up with logical answers like, as the student, as the director in training, my job is to get them over to the director so the director answers questions and gets them to registration. Well, that's true. That's very true. So if you're going to put that in, that's true. But I do want people to answer that. But I want to read you, and we're going to cover this again next week. So I'll wait a few seconds because it takes a minute to get in there. And I'm hoping I can actually find it, but I'll explain it in my own words. But I want to explain this and tell you why this is important. Okay. Any answers there, Shirley? You can turn your mic on, Shirley. Sign them up.
Sign them up.
It's true. We need to lead them to registration. It's not my job to do a three-way and then sit there and register your person. But it does mean that I have to be qualified, professional. I have to be educated enough to guide them to see if they're going to register. All right. Okay. So come on,
That's
put
the
some
only-
answers. Let me read this to you.
Okay, Joe, because you're not the expert, and also they will see that they don't have to be the expert. Teresa
Excellent.
says it shows them that they do not have to have all the answers.
Okay, very good, both of you. Excellent. Let me read and expand on that a little bit. Here we go. What is the purpose of the director three-way call? It's to establish in the mind of the prospect that he or she has the support from a qualified person to answer questions and close the prospect if the prospect is right for our company. Because we just what Joe and Teresa says, we don't want the prospect thinking that they have to have the answers if they become part of it. They can see what the other affiliate or community member has done to get them to a director who has the answers. And that was to ask them a few questions, get them information, answer a few questions like, what do you do? How long have you been doing it? And where do you see yourself? That's all they have to do, and say, it looks like we have a match. Let's get you over here so that we can get someone to answer your questions, because they're just in training. They're a director in training. If you don't teach your prospect that by example, they will think they have to have all the answers just like this person did, the affiliate or community member did, and that scares them. And besides, it's going to take them a while. So that is the purpose of it. So we work on that all the time to get the mindset, get the people's mindset to understand that they are not the expert and they're not supposed to be. You must project that you are only the person who gets them to the expert. So many times I have taken people on a three-way to Mark. Does Mark know what I know? Yeah. Do I know what Mark knows? Yeah. But that's not the point. The point is I can't give that prospect the feeling that they have to do what I'm doing. Now, there's times I had to do my own. That's fine. People saw me on the Breakfast Club and expect me to answer those questions. That's fine. All right. So, Mark, any comments on that? Roland, how's your microphone? Looks like you're off now.
Can you hear me?
I got you. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to close out in 2 more minutes, but I want to talk about you when you called me and said, "Oh my gosh," after your people had taken the class, and you were very successful without it. Tell us your experience after you took it.
Yeah, well, what happened after taking the class, I realized that this class is something that everyone needs. I mean, it's great for beginners. It's also great for people who have been in the business and not experiencing success. And for those who are experiencing success, it's also good. So it's great for just everyone. It deals with prospecting from the beginning until you get to the point where you get somebody into the business. It also go over how to answer the questions prospect may ask you, and their concerning voicemail. I mean, just everything that you need to know and get comfortable with.
Did it make you more comfortable after you took the class with talking to strangers?
Oh, definitely, because it deals with the response that you would give to any question that somebody would ask. Even people that you do not know, making cold calling, the question they may ask, for example, where did you get my name, and so on. All the answers for these questions are in there. Is it a pyramid? The correct answer is in there. So it shows you how to deal with everything, and it also let you know that the roles that each person should play, from the director to director in training. So it go over everything just from the beginning to the end. I mean, and this was just the first class. I haven't taken the second part yet, but the first part, it's a training that just everybody, especially people who just get into the business for the first time.
Well,
it's good for putting them on the right track, teaching them the right way to do it before they develop the negative habits.
This is a guy talking to you who actually was part of the winning circle of the last recruiting contest. This is a guy in the industry, successful in his own personal life, his business life, and in our networking world, who now says, I took the class, and I can tell you, I'll ask him, but I know he's going to tell me that this class was like no other class he's ever taken, correct?
Oh, definitely, sure. Because you just take it from step to step, from the beginning, with the correct things to see, how to deal, and how to welcome someone into the business. When someone gets into the business, it's also good to pass them on to someone to introduce them.
Oh yeah, it takes them through all of that, right through the end of how to even introduce them to other people. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to play a 40-second video, and the reason I'm doing this is to get you to understand. I think you will. It's kind of funny. Shirley saw it for the first time last night and laughed. I know Mark has seen this, but I'm going to play it. And it has to do with communication. It has to do with the failure to communicate and how tragic that can be. Now, it wouldn't be as tragic as you're going to see here for us, but I'll tell you what would be tragic is that if you did not know how to communicate properly and someone else did, and you spoke to somebody who didn't come aboard with you, and then they came aboard with someone who knew how to really communicate with them. That could be tragic. That happened to me in my early career. I lost a guy that cost me at least $4,000 to $5,000 a month because I did not properly communicate with this person. It was before I learned. It was early on. I talked to everybody. I did it on my own until Safford pulled me aside and said, you got to learn better how to do this. Got to be professional, Joe. And when he taught me that, and prior to that, I lost a major player that continued on in the company. And every month I was, my check, even though I got it to a very large income, it was just tragic to see that I lost that $4,000 to $5,000 a month in addition to what I was making. I've never forgotten that. Anyway, let's play this little video. We'll come back on and say goodbye afterwards, but take a look at this. And let's see now. I got to share my screen to do this. Share the screen, entire screen. That's what I do, and click share. Now you'll see something strange happen to my screen. Try this. Shirley, you'll need to let me know whether or not we see this.
I see it.
Mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät, das
Yeah,
überall.
that's bigger. That's good.
Ja. Mayday, mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
I know it wasn't fun for him, but that's still funny.
All right, let's get a few comments in that box. If you saw it, you
Look at your man. Now back to me.
Okay,
Now
I
back
got
to
that.
me. Now back to me.
The commercials kept coming.
Don says,
What's that? Oh, I wasn't sharing
Don
that.
said,
That's
Teresa's laughing.
yeah. What are you thinking about? So you see how important it is to communicate. That certainly is a comical situation
Yeah.
for us, but not for
Don
them.
said sad, but ha.
What is Michael's comment? I can't read it with these glasses.
LMBO. I think that's laughing my butt off.
I see.
I don't know all that language. I'm just guessing at it.
Well, good.
Barb says too funny.
Look, this is extreme. What is that? What does Ken say?
Okay. Ken says it's like the conversation between the naval ship and the lighthouse. LOL.
All right, look. Have a little fun with it, but the truth is, if you don't learn to communicate, something tragic could happen to you, which means you would lose your person. So let's keep that in mind. And now let's focus on next week. Well, certainly we have calls tomorrow night with the company and Thursday night, but next Tuesday, Doug Kyle will be with us. He's going to be talking to us about the importance of communication, how he got to the top of his game, how he sold his company for 7 figures at a young age and became, independently, I'll use that word loosely, I guess. He's never said that to me, but I assume he became independently wealthy at that stage with a 7-figure sale. So with that, let's just say thank you for being here. We will see you next week. And just keep in mind how important that is. Mark, I'll let you finish up here and say goodbye. So thanks for being here. Roland, thanks for being here. Appreciate it, and appreciate you taking the class and understanding. And we're going to get a lot more people in that class this year. We had, I won't even tell you the number, how many hundreds and hundreds of people in the last 12 to 15 months.
I'll say this, Joe, in closing. Everybody think about this. I have a saying that there's a difference in being broke and being poor. And if you don't know how to communicate, you'll be both. So with that thought, learn how to communicate and grow your business. And again, we'll look to see everyone next week. Peace and blessings to you. Make it a cooler week, a cooler month, and a cooler year. So this is Mark Stevens, our host, Joe Shoup, and Shirley saying, peace and blessings, everyone. Make it a cooler day.
Thanks, Roland. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. Also, thank you. Have a great day, everybody.